Living the Cape Town dream on Heart FM, Cape Town's beat.
Our demand is far more serious. We started this conversation yesterday and I said I'm going to get a media expert because I don't think we fully understand just the ramifications of all of this. And I'm going to tie together a couple of things, but I'm going to base it largely on what's happening with the investigation into Jocelyn Smith. Now, she is a 6-year-old girl from Saldanha who went missing almost 2 weeks ago now. That investigation taking all sorts of twists and turns, but it's not the case necessarily that has me as concerned right now with this conversation as the people who are commenting and the people who are fomenting a lot of angst in the community. In fact, the mothers had to be removed from this community for her own safety, and I think a lot of it has got to do with the rhetoric that happens in live TikTok videos. People who sit there for hours dissecting the case and are apportioning blame and are saying the police are failing because this one is guilty and they should have arrested this one and the evidence is clear that this must be the killer and so on. Whoa, slippery slope when we allow that kind of thing to become a matter of course. Nicoline Skuman is a lawyer who specializes in social media and cyberspace law. Nicoline, good morning. Thanks so much for your time.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Are you as concerned? I'm not sure how much of this content you've consumed, but I think I've in very broad strokes sketched just what is playing itself out.
Absolutely. Thank you for the update. I think all of us, even if we are not big on TikTok or specific social platforms, we know about this case and we've heard something from someone. Even if it's not online, it's really mushroomed out, I think, into our day-to-day conversations as South Africans. And I'm very concerned about the nature of the commentary that is doing its rounds in our social circles on and offline.
All right, I'm going to play a bit of audio, and this is somebody, one of these influencers. I mean, this is what they call themselves now. They basically have set up camp in Saldanha and are doing blow-by-blow accounts throughout the course of the day as the investigation unfolds. They are speaking to people, they're speaking to witnesses. They're doing almost a parallel investigation and are claiming they're the ones cracking the case and not the police. Have a listen to I'll play you just a little bit of what's going on.
Ik heb geloop, by stop afgeklim baie gewoonlik afklim, ek het huis toe gegaan. Bankel toe gaan met sigaret gaan koop, ek het my meisie kan met kinders gegroet. Dus dan ek meisie kindjie voor my, koop halfmoons en stuff. En maar nou met die bewustzijn dat ek kan gaan stomming raak. Ja, as ek moes dit na my ma sê, so tydjie by my ma sê af huis toe. Kom ek by die huis, so tydjie besig op is met my goedjies wat ek doen by die huis, koop jy al by. Dink jy dat ek kan gesien sê ka? Maar ek kan nog laas ook kan gesien by die winkel. Ek en my meisie nog saam as, jy toe weg. Around uitzoeken, koop jullie, razen, histories, en die dieren en ons dieren plakken, ik ben ook daar. Zij het gezegd, maar als ik krijg niet aan nog.
Goeiemiddag mensen. Die kind wat weg is, dat is die regie. En nog een ding is die, is al die 8ste dag al. Soos die ma, sê sy het gaan werk en die kind gelos vir die stiefpa. Maar die stiefpa weet nie waar die kind is. Hoe kan hy nou weet waar die kind is baie verkeerd? Ek stem nie saam nie. Volgens my opinie is... Hulle moet die man vat en die ma vat, sê waar die kind is. Die boere moet hulle toesluit.
You see, it's this kind of stuff where people are putting this out there and are apportioning blame. They are, in their own estimation, identifying victims, and this kind of thing just gets the community really upset.
Absolutely. I think as a point of departure for our discussion, there are certain rules of engagement that I think as a community we should start to observe. Now, of course, from a legal point of view, we've got a number of pieces of legislation that aim to regulate how we interact, particularly online. But I think if we feel that we do not have that it's inappropriate, let me put it that way. If we feel that it's inappropriate to say something or to express an opinion to someone's physical face, but we do it online, I think there's a problem. Mm-hmm. The minute we think social media gives us anonymity to the degree that we can really say what we want and there are no repercussions, we are sorely mistaken. Secondly, remember there's a very fine line between our freedom of expression constitutionally protected and our freedom or our right to privacy and dignity, right? So these are two balancing constitutional rights from a legal point of view. It doesn't mean that we can express our opinions, and if those opinions are hurtful or damaging or incite people to do things, whether it be violent things, whether it be a sea of commentary and all sorts of insults that are flung on or offline, the minute we cross the line that what we do has a connection to some unfortunate, damaging outcome, we've got problems. And then we are no longer protected under our freedom of expression. And that's a very basic principle that I think we are losing as community members somewhere along the line. We think, this is my opinion, and I can say and express myself no matter what the repercussions are, no matter what the comments are or the violence or anything that results from what I'm saying. We need to be very careful of that because actions have consequences. And when those consequences are damaging or negative, we need to deal with them, and the law deals with them under the Cybercrimes Act.
All right, so
Nicoline,
Nicoline, what happens? And I think people have had the freedom, if one wants to call it that, to say whatever the hell they want to on social media because nobody comes after you. You know, it's unless there's a civil claim that's launched for defamation, and I'll touch on a very high-profile one in just a second that's taken some 5 years to come to fruition. I mean, what recourse in law for people who are making allegations, people who are saying and calling out people by name as the abductor of this child? Some people have gone so far as to say, I know that this person killed this child. I mean, it's some gruesome stuff playing itself out on social media. What does the law do to people like that?
The problem is that if you look at the Cybercrimes Act, and I think we need to very briefly touch on this. The Cybercrimes Act is a new piece of legislation in terms of it becoming law in our law books. But it presupposes that we are making use of technology to commit crime. So it's the marriage of, if you were, the old with the new. In other words, all the crimes we have been accustomed to for many, many years before, whether it be defamation of character, crimen injuria in the criminal or the civil sense, whether it be stalking, as the Americans refer to it, or harassment as we refer to it legally, locally, and the list really goes on. So everything that we were accustomed to happening, fraud, extortion, all the crimes we've heard of since we were young children is now being enabled through tools like social media. And if we are talking about harassment, we need to talk about this because that's what I feel personally from a legal point of view that this family and the people closest to them are potentially experiencing. What can they do? They can go to the police and open a criminal case under the Cybercrimes Act, and it will take its course. In addition to that, they can approach their local magistrate's court and seek a protection order. So the protection against harassment and the body of legislation that deals with that gives us protection. But the problem is with social media, our screen names are not always our real names. Mm-hmm. So it becomes a really difficult situation to name the people that are doing this to you, to identify them correctly, and to bring them to task within the system. And if you look at international statistics, this is not a South African problem. This is a global problem. Statistically, in the UK, for example, there's a documentary out on cybercrime and cyber stalking at the moment. And if you look at the statistics, less than 2% in the UK of stalkers, as they call it, people that harass others through social media and other ways, actually end up in prison.
Okay.
That's a horrific statistic, not just in our country. So what can you do? You can do all the things you would be able to do if someone committed a crime offline, even if it's online. And yes, the system takes long. So if we look at the high-profile case, by example, that was criminal injuria. And regrettably, the wheel turns very slowly in relation to our criminal justice system.
Yeah, in fact, that case is in the courts today for sentencing. I'm talking about Jackie Pomotse, who's an influencer. She's an author. Made claims against Romeo and Basetsana Komalu. In 2018, they introduced a toy boy or a toy girl into their bedroom. Didn't necessarily mention them by name, but there was enough to indicate to anybody on social media that that's who it was. They took very, very strong exception. Went about litigation on this one. She was found guilty last year. Let's just have a listen to what they had to say about it.
Somebody decided to wake up and get on a Twitter mountain with a keyboard. And literally, this is a victory for every single person. There are many people in this country who've taken their lives from being cyberbullied. And today, this unprecedented judgment is for all of us. For my children who had to live in shame over the last 5 years. For my parents' legacy who raised us well.
Yeah, that's Bassi, I think, speaking her truth. But she's one of the lucky ones. She got her day in court. She ended up victorious. As she points out, so many people just end up being shunned, end up being cancelled, end up killing themselves because of what somebody else feels is their right to say on social media.
The problem is that and this again, I want to reiterate, this is not only in our country. If you look at any other jurisdiction, if any person goes to the police and they report an incident taking place on social media, whether it is a harassing message that you are receiving or an inappropriate message, or if we go down the rabbit hole of pictures that have been altered in deep fake images, fake or misinformation, if we go down that rabbit hole, it becomes such a difficult thing to explain the impact. And the victims often find that they are unable to articulate what they've suffered. And as a result, the receiver, whether it be in the police or maybe in the legal system, doesn't hear how bad it really is. And they then often perceive it as, this is not so bad. This is just a bit of a rant on social media. It will blow over. Don't worry about it. And the result of that is that we lose faith in the system. And we find that more and more people simply do not report what is happening to them. More and more people do not speak about it. And therefore, it's a vicious cycle where we perpetuate an environment where this keeps happening. And it needs to stop. And I think we need to go to our legal representatives. When we want to report this, seek advice, pay that little bit of money, but get someone in your corner that can really listen and that can really help you either through the criminal system or through the civil system. There are mechanisms. You're not without recourse. And as users, we need to stop thinking that we can say whatever we want without any consequences.
I'm going to park it there for this morning. Appreciate insights. Social media lawyer Nicolene Skuman, Rodney on the WhatsApp line saying people's emotions are at an all-time high. Everybody wants answers. After 14 days, so much evidence could easily have been destroyed by these amateur investigations. Eventually, we will even see 0 to no conviction unless those in custody or known to the victim start spilling the beans. Agree with you 100% there, sir.